holidays, everybody. Okay, this is the usual Data Facades community group update. So let me first share my screen. We have a nice agenda as usual. We store our plans and minutes and everything on GitHub. We record meetings as well. We will share on YouTube so that we can have like all on record, and we can generate our minutes. And usually we updated this file that you are seeing now as to keep track of the discussion. Okay. So Luigi, you were telling me that you may not stay for the whole meeting. Is that correct? Or is
yes,
the case?
yes. I have only 30 minutes. Then
Okay.
I have to jump in another meeting.
No, this is fine. So to say that maybe we want to reshuffle the agenda. Maybe there is anything you would like to be.
Yeah. Maybe no. I think it's okay. Maybe we can just have a discussion on the plan as a third point. Maybe I think I can contribute more on that, and then you have the dissemination as for and other business.
Okay. I mean, the SWC tutorial is a good news. So we submit a tutorial, bunch of us, the kind of the more active so far on building the specification, and we got accepted. So now we will have to organize a half-day tutorial at SWC in the end of October, which is good. I think this is something we have time to organize, but we have, I think, a deadline for the website. So maybe either Luigi or I, we should probably work on the website. And once we have the website, I'll be happy to share this with the program with you, with everybody in the group, so that we can get feedback. And also, if you're attending ISWC, of course, you're very welcome to join. That's for the tutorial from me. So we can
maybe we can also have if anyone else is in presence in Bari on October, we can have also a small let's say meeting there, just to see each other in face.
actually, it would be a very good point. We can have a hybrid community group meeting there, so that we can have like that would be nice. Maybe we can talk to the organizers if we can get a room, or there is a spot we can reuse. So there was a hand up, but I lost it. And if anybody wants to say anything, please feel free to just interrupt us. Okay. Okay. Then I can. The other thing. So let's move for the quick things, and then we go on the specification, because there I think we may spend a bit more time. So dissemination of the community group. I think I realized that. I mean, I've done just probably one LinkedIn post so far, and nothing more. Now we are almost because we're reaching the end of like the academic season. Maybe it's a good idea. I was thinking if we could do a recap post on the W3C platform, like a blog post where we do a summary of the work that we have done so far, the invited speakers, the feedback we collected, the evidence of adoption. I think these things would be nice to have them somehow on record somewhere. And then maybe we can do another LinkedIn post to do a bit of noise around the community group work. The other news is that I've been invited to do a talk at the Goblin Cost Action series about Facades. So there will be this talk at the end of August. Now, I don't remember exactly the date, but as soon as this is going to be like published, I'm going to share it on the list so that, and clearly you're very welcome to join and to participate in the discussion. Anything else around dissemination? Okay. So instead, let me see. It's horrible. Teams bar means that I don't have access to the tabs from my browser. Okay. So we've done some work on the specification and mainly on the management side. I don't know if you remember, we discussed about using Markdown style content editing on the specs. Now we have that nicely. So basically, the actual content of the various specs is in the content folder. There's one page per document. And so if we want to have to change, edit, or annotate or comment, we can do it through GitHub. Like even in this way, for example, and referencing issues like this, no? So we can have a permalink from here, or we can comment on the, of course, on the commit messages. That's the other style of commenting that is enabled from GitHub. Otherwise, in any case, we can use issues to kind of manage the workflow. Okay. Then I've done quite some work this morning with the help of Claude. I have to admit, and generated a few more pages. Now I still need to do a proper reviewing, but actually about that, I would be very open for others to help me and to join the effort. So this is the current version of the specs. So we discussed to have a primer, which means a document that is an informal description of how the Facades concept work. And then concepts and meta model and RDF vocabulary are like the same as they were before, except for the Markdown workflow part. And then I drafted the document about the service clause and how to use Sparkle. Okay. So the first one is the primer. Now, clearly, I invite you to read these things and provide comments. Some of the texts should be probably revised. Sometimes sounds a bit too much AI, but the content is generally correct. So what we need to do is to do a proper revision now. So another thing I've done, maybe it's clearer on other documents, but I think I changed the building system kind of queries GitHub for all issues open with a given label. Okay, and then it embeds those issues. So we don't have to edit the document, because before we had to edit the document and add a specific reference to a specific issue. So in theory now every time we build through a GitHub action, the build script gathers all the issues. Clearly, if we open a new one after the build is done, this doesn't show up, but I think we can leave it. But ideally, so we don't have to change the content every time we want to add an issue, but they are added every time the content is built, essentially. So basically, the structure is the role of the document, kind of the general use case for Facades, then an intuitive, informal description of the model, what are the components, and then examples from JSON and CSV. There is also a small section about what's the kind of the intuitive relationship between computer science primitives and Facades components. And this one is very, this title is very AI generated, but doesn't matter. We will make them nicer later. But the content is correct. I mean, here there are some comments on what's the structure of the specification and what are kind of the main properties intuitively of Facades data. And then there is an example of query. Okay, kind of very simple example. And like paths to other specification here. This is the primary. Here we should also add the Sparkle one, the access in Sparkle. Again, I don't expect you to simulate and provide feedback immediately, but I just wanted to illustrate you what happened. So concepts and meta model are still the same. I'll give you an example with RDF vocabulary. We should see the issues here. If everything worked as expected. So as you can see, basically, there are issues. These issues have been tagged with a label, effects of the vocabulary. When we build the script, when the script builds the document from the markdown and the template, basically it crawls the issues from the GitHub API and embeds them here. Okay. So this is quite nice. Clearly, this is only for open issues. So the moment we fix this, we close the issues, we do a commit to edit the content. In the next round, the issue will disappear and the list of active issues will be updated. I think this is quite handy. So among the things to be done here is the fact that we need to add the DFS member to the vocabulary. And here, both here and in the Sparkle spec, where we refer to the old and slot. We still have a couple of issues that we are uncertain about. One is how to represent constraints. Here, these are represented a bit informally. Clearly below there is the Manchester syntax version where the constraint is formal, but maybe the question is also how much this is clear. Maybe we should add also some text that clarifies what this syntax means, for example. No? Like a container is can have a number of predicates. These predicates may be any predicate as soon as it's an instance of slot or PDF type. So this in OWL is a union, basically a subclass of union of an anonymous class. But I mean, if you want to describe this here, I'm not sure what's the best way of doing it. Maybe we just need to add some text with informal description and then leave, or maybe we can embed here the Manchester syntax, which probably is not bad. Although I don't see here in the Manchester syntax. Oh, it's here. Okay, yeah. Basically, in the class slot, we know that its domain is a container. Slots are properties, and ranges are container or value. Okay.
Otherwise, I don't know if
yeah, and also
it is something shackle or
maybe I agree with you also because effectively we can't say that containers are classes that have slots because there can be empty containers. So we don't have to. We can't even say that. I mean, logically. But you're right. Maybe we can use shackle to describe some of the properties of this, or at least study how those shackle shapes will look like.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there are other things like the truth is a singleton, for example, and the question is whether this can be expressed in OWL and how. Okay, so basically what to be done here is to kind of like enrich a bit this the vocabulary description, other DFS members. So there are a few things to do still before we can get a call for feedback or a review. The other aspects is whether URI generation for slots should be specified and how. I think we like the idea to have like a specification about how we mint IRIs. And we can have different ways of minting IRIs. I think we talked about using slugs rather than URL encoding for intuitiveness. So maybe there is something we can also add in the collection of options available. But yes, the other chapter is URI generation. So this is clearly, that's a lot to discuss. So maybe we do things incrementally. I don't know if we need a separate document for URI, for IRI's minting, both for slots and probably yes. I'm not sure it's the best way to do it in the vocabulary. Okay. So it's saying this is RDF. It's RDF. No, why my laptop. Ryan, please.
Can you say a bit more about what you're thinking in terms of what else is needed for URI generation? Just because I haven't run into anything yet where I haven't been able to handle it with the existing entity function. So I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. No, I think the point here is about what do we have to put in the specification. Okay, so Sparkle anything does some things. We have a function that generates entities that helps with building entities. And then there is a general strategy to go from the strings in the data sources to the URIs that we need. Okay, for example, we have, I don't know, JSON key string is appended to the namespace XYZ or to a namespace that is provided by the user. Okay, so this part is nowhere so far in the specification. Okay, so the question is whether we should create a document for describing how URIs are minted from data sources that don't have URIs. For example, in some XML have these URIs. So you have qualified names. So maybe in that case, we just can reuse the same URI as the source. But in many cases, those are not URIs. We still want to have a proper IRI, URI, whatever for the slot property. So the thing is, we should have a place where we discuss how these are minted. And then within this, there can be several ways to produce a nice URI from a source string. So far, we just do the URL encoding. So if there are spaces, for example, in column names in the CSV, you get %20. Okay, this is maybe all right, but maybe other users want to have like some sort of slugification, so that, like some kind of normalization of the string that can be also considered as an alternative way to normalize strings. I think we discussed this with GraphWise last meeting. Did I reply, Ryan?
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Sorry, I think I made I hid the list of attendees, so I didn't let's see. For some reason, my laptop is very slow at the moment, so I don't know why. It must be something that is consuming a lot of resources. I'm not sure what it is. Okay, so this was RDF vocabulary. I think concepts and metamodel hasn't changed. Maybe we can have a quick look to the taxes in Sparkle. So this part is about showing how basically Facades is used within Sparkle queries. Again, this is mainly informal, I think. We need to understand how much and how to kind of formalize some of these things. For example, the service clause and the way properties are encoded in the service. Also, maybe we want to change X Sparkle or anything in something else. X facade X doesn't sound great. I don't know if you have opinions, or simply facade X. Usually because that's a protocol, usually protocol extensions should start with X, but maybe if this is specified, maybe we can have an FX protocol, I don't know.
Otherwise, we just swap facade X in X facade and
Or X.
we use that as scheme. So X facade, then.
It could be X facade could also work, yes. Yeah, yeah. Maybe a bit, I don't know if it's counterintuitive or it's just fun. I don't know. So let's keep X facade, and if nobody challenges it, it's better than sparkle anything at least. So it's a more generic. And then clearly you can embed options in the service ARI or as triples. Okay, this is by example again. So maybe to understand how and to properly, there is a better way to specify that. Another aspect is that this is now using the FX namespace, like the vocabulary also does, which I'm not sure is the right thing. Maybe we need a different namespace for the properties. And also we need to have a place where we describe this as a vocabulary, which I'm not sure how to do, or maybe we don't. And we just describe here the properties as like informally. I don't know. Here, these ones are basically took from Spark or anything. So there is also an open question whether all of these are relevant for a specification. I think generally they are, like the media type, the namespace one wants to use, whether ones want to mint URIs or not for containers, whether there is an ARI that one wants to assign to the root container that can then be used, you know, for all the containers in the data source, whether one should trim strings, whether there is a null string. All these things are generally useful. I'm not sure about this one. The US RDFS member, because we will keep RDFS member as a magic property, but then here basically the idea is, shall we allow implementations to not generate container membership properties, but instead generate only RDFS member? Maybe yes, I don't know. We do this in Spark or anything. And these ones, execution options, I'm going to remove them because these, I think, are only, they only make sense in the specific implementation of Spark or anything. I don't think there is any values at the moment to include this in the spec. FX and slot, this should be replaced, I think, with a DFS member, as we discussed. And then there are some examples, for example, for the content source. Okay, I think this is what had happened regarding the specs. Now, please, when we in your own time have a look, and I think we may also, I don't know, what do you think, Luigi? Maybe we should kind of assign a reviewer. Which one of these that is not one of us, and that, by the way, will be invited as co-editor of the document, the specific spec. So please come forward, and we're very happy to share both the work and the glory, whatever it is.
Ivo has his hand raised.
Please speak, because I can't see you at the moment. Sorry. Come forward. Ivo, please. I'll stop sharing because I think it's Teams that is making my laptop unworkable, and I can't really move the mouse and anything else.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I was speaking, but maybe in a different microphone, which is so. I add a small comment on the options. So I'm in favor of standardizing them because the whole effort is about interoperability.
Yeah.
So if somebody's using an implementation of Facades in one tooling, they should be able to reuse all their Sparkle queries when they move to another tool, which won't be the case if each tool have their own options. I mean, they can have that on top of what is standardized, but there should be a core of options that is part of the vocabulary.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, I think we are keeping all the main options as part of the vocabulary. What I want to remove are only the options that are that refer to specific implementations, like, for example, the on disk, the slice, the thing that are about how the query is executed. So those things are really related to how the tool operates in the backend. But of course, properties, location, MIME type, all these are meant to be standardized. I hope this clarifies, unless you were really meaning those small set of options that I was planning to remove.
No, just the more general ones. And then, of course, after that this is agreed, it would be nice also to update the Sparkle Anything specification to clearly distinguish which ones follow the specifications, which ones are specific for Sparkle Anything.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you. Okay. So anything else on the current version of the specs? Clearly, I really invite all of you to take some time in the next, like during the holidays before our next meeting, and I guess will happen in September, to review the documents, open issues, make questions, and so that we can try to make these documents as robust as possible before sharing them with the rest of the community, particularly the RTF Sparkle community. So in terms of specifications, so other documents that we need. So I think we agreed to have one about the function extensions. So like FX entity, string manipulation. We have a long list of functions in Sparkle Anything, and some of them it would be good to include as an extension that can be supported through the Facades namespace. Like implementations that use the support Facades may also support, I don't know, functions to operate with container membership properties or with other aspects of the spec. So that's one, and the other one is IRI generation, I already mentioned. Anything else deserves a document? I mean, besides the specific mappings for the various formats. So I got URI generation, and we have an issue for that, I think, and functions list. Let me see if I can see it. No, so I think we need an issue about, we need to open an issue regarding the list of functions document. So that at least we have all the basic documents in place, and then we can start refining them. Okay, I'm mentioning this, hoping that our automatic transcript will capture all that is needed, and later on I will try and generate the action list. Let me see our way. So timeline and plans for the autumn. Apart from the SWC tutorial, it would be really good because the conference is at the end of October. It would be really good if we could get out with the first version of all the specs for them, so that we can even announce them during the tutorial. It would be good just before the SWC conference. So that during SWC maybe there is some also a bit of dissemination going on, interest, so that we can announce this, I don't know, the week before or a few days before the conference, to attract also participants to the tutorials, things like that. I think it's doable because we have 2 months, roughly 2 working months, September, October. So if we can reach like a full set of documents soon, we can add the specification for CSV, JSON, XML. I guess Markdown is doable as well. And the test list, the test set. It's a bit of work, but I think it's worth it. Ideally, we will have the first set of specs for that time, like November. And October, November, we can start getting some feedback from the industry sector and the RDF Sparkle working group. Sounds good?
Yes.
Nice.
Is there anything needed special for the protocol side? Because whatever needs to be transferred could be accessed, could be in the local storage, could be somewhere on the cloud, could be via REST API, maybe a few different modes. And I wonder if this would require additional care.
That's actually a good point. Maybe we could add this as part of the Sparkle.access spec, because anyway, ideally, the only requirement is that a resource has a URL. So any valid URL should in principle work. Like if you have an S3 URL or even a theory, a JDBC URL, like something like that, even though we don't have yet the relational database. But I mean, just in theory, the protocol, the URL resolution should have enough for the resource access. But I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Maybe we need a bit of need to understand whether we should.
And how to communicate the authentication. After all, now it's done with Sparkle. I'm using Sparkle anything for interrogating REST APIs, and some of them need authentication. So all that I think needs a bit of.
Okay, so I see what you mean. So you're referring to the HTTP part of the functionality on Sparkle Anything, which indeed exposes a number of features from the HTTP client library, which includes authentication and all like ways, for example, to extend the request header, these kind of things. Yes, that's a good point. Yes, I think we should open an issue about that. Thank you. And see whether it should go. We can certainly have add a section on the Sparkle.access spec, and then if we see that things become too difficult to manage, we can have a separate document about HTTP support for resource access. So basically, how do we expose the HTTP protocol so that people can customize the requests through the Sparkle Anything configuration? Oops.
And in particular, also the fact that currently it's certain things are implemented in two different ways. Like for example, there are two different ways to sparkle anything that you can encode the location. It could be in a service, it could be as a value of a specific property. And I think for everything, it could be done in two ways, or we may prefer to just keep one of these ways as standard.
Yes, good point. I think for the moment I'm expecting we describe it both ways. So in the current spec draft, there are examples for both the embedding of properties into the service URI and definition of a separate vocabulary. I personally prefer the actual the use of triples to describe things because it's much more clearer in terms of syntax and also less error prone. But I don't see reasons why to not support both. I don't know if you have any preference.
My preference is normally for triples because at the end, if
yeah, I have the same.
Yeah, it has certain.
It's just. Yes, but at the moment, I think we have drafted both options. So we'll keep that informal. Also, because otherwise, I think we need a way to kind of specify this formally as a URI building like pattern. I think we did this originally with Luigi. Okay, so in terms of documents, I think URI generation, function lists, and then we can move to the examples, so to kind of the mappings to the various formats. I would say we should do at least CSV, XML. Actually, maybe one discussion will be to whether we should do separate specs for XML and HTML, or should we target for the document object model, which is a specification and can, in principle, be used to access both XML and HTML, XHTML, and whatever. Any opinion on that? If the document object model should be the reference specification, because if we do the document object model, then we only have like one document to write, and then examples can cover both XML and HTML. Would that work?
I think that would be useful because right now I'm having to convert HTML to XHTML and sometimes that's a pain.
Yeah, no, indeed. Because at the moment on Spark or anything, we have two parsers, no? One for XML that uses a Sax parser, and the other for HTML, which I think uses a DOM-based parser. But still, so in terms of specification, the least we write, the better, I suppose. And since DOM is W3C spec, we may just go for that. Like the DOM structure model. Now I am looking into this one. I put a link in the. Oh, I didn't see Luigi leaving. So there's document fragment, document type, processing instruction, text, comment, entity. Maybe that's the there is an IDL definition, then the question will be how do we map this IDL definition to an actual container URI, for example.
From one side, I understand this going for DOM instead of HTML, XML, but it might be a bit confusing for some because on the other side, we have the vocabulary, and the vocabulary has this nice property FX media type.
Yes.
And so we will break the mapping that this property gives as an entry point when you want to activate this or another triplifier, and I think this will be relevant for all implementers.
Indeed. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, first of all, I think even if we write a different document per format, we still have to support multiple MIME types because the MIME type is a jungle. So that's not entirely a problem. On the other hand, some notions from HTML and XML are much clearer using terminology of XML and HTML rather than one of DOM. Yeah, that's a fair point.
So to be honest, I didn't even realize Sparkle Anything had the HTML support because I've just been using XML for HTML as well. And now that I look at the HTML, it seems like it also has things like for controlling browsers and taking screenshots and things like that that goes beyond just the HTML format.
Yeah, no, that's the like the serverless, the headless server kind of feature is an extension. I don't think we should bother now to consider in the spec because it's basically what it's doing is opening a browser in memory so that the page is rendered before it's queried, because sometimes JavaScript meddles with the content, and sometimes you want to query the rendered page, not the original source. Yeah, that was, I think, Justin Dowd who did that part. Yeah, that's useful. But I don't think this is something we should bother too much now. Yeah, there are still differences between the XML triplifier and the HTML1. I think even besides that feature, I don't remember which ones are there, but I'm sure that there are some because they are different implementations. So we wrote different things probably. So also harmonizing this could be also a good idea so that things are consistent. For example, I think for HTML, I think we are using the default namespace XHTML, W3C namespace for XHTML, while for XML, we don't use any if there is no namespace defined, I think. Which makes me think a completely different method, we should mention it in the FX primer, that we clearly we interpret every literal as a string unless the source format uses specific types. In that case, we map them to XSD. So I think this is a general principle should be mentioned in the FX primer, and maybe we can use some examples for JSON, like for example for Boolean or decimal. But then this will become clearer when we work on the actual mappings for each format. So yes, I mean, it's an open question whether we should go for the DOM or for simply targeting XML and HTML as separate formats. I think it's fair. Also, are you aware of any other format that is used, this processed through DOM, apart from XML and HTML? I'm not. Okay, SVG clearly is also supported by DOM, but is XML, so I don't think it's an XML application. I think there's not much to, there's nothing more apart from XML and HTML. Okay. Okay. So, any other business apart from fixing the meeting in September? Maybe we can pencil something provisionally, and then we ask the list if there is anybody that has is against. I start looking, and of course, if you want to raise any other issue, please, or you want to discuss anything else, we still have some time.
Actually, I had a question about XML. So I'm doing a lot of things this summer with Mark XML records from library catalogs. So I've been combining them all into a single collection of Mark records in order to query that collection. But it would actually be more convenient if I could just have a directory full of Mark records and like query that directory. And rather than having that step of combining it into a single file or breaking it up into chunks or whatever. And I wonder if there's been any discussion of that.
Yeah, what I will try to do is to embed basically you nest two service clause, and with the first you query the folder, then you're gonna get a graph with all the paths to each file, and then you use that to substitute the location in the nested query, in the nested service clause. I'll find you an example.
Okay.
So we have one.
Yeah, I think something like a cookbook would be a good complement to the primer.
That's a very good point. Actually, we'll add that. We must add that. Maybe together with the test set, we can have a test set and a cookbook with good practices. Let me see if I can find the examples for you. I'm sure we have some. This one from the Tate. This one from the that's a bit convoluted, but the technique is there. So I'll share the link. I can go there and also share my screen quickly just to give you an idea of the method. So basically, we have a first service clause that reads a CSV. Now, in your case, you should use the archive triplifier and point to a folder. Okay. So you get, maybe you can do some tests. So you query a folder SPO and you see how it looks like. But basically, it's a list of file paths. Okay. Then you take the file path and you build the location URI, and then you pass it to another service clause. So basically what happens is that for each one of those bindings, the service clause will do a different query. So we'll transform read the file and do the query.
So querying the file system, is that I think that's the part I was unaware of.
yeah, you should look into the. This is a bit counterintuitive because now I think it's Teams that is ruining my experience because I can't move the browser when I share my screen. I can't move the pointer when I share my screen. Just a second. I'll stop sharing because I don't know why that's happening today. Let's stop sharing, please. Come on. But sharing, so now I can look around. Okay. I'll look into the documentation. There is
Oh, okay.
there
It's
is
under archive.
arc. Yes, unfortunately, yeah, that's not very intuitive. But the same transformer can be applied pointing to a folder.
Okay. Yeah, I would rename that to folders or archives because I assumed it was just talking about tarballs and yeah.
You're right. But if you basically if you point to the location to a path, even dot, you will see you get the list of files in the main in the folder when you run where you run the Spark or anything executable. And then you can move from there, essentially. Whatever your user is allowed to reach is going to be accessible by the Java process. And then, of course, if you hit a wall, just open an issue and either I or someone else is going to react and we find. I think there are also in the sandbox, there must be also some other examples now. Maybe I look it up. If I find something better, I'll share it with you. So let me look. So we will keep Mondays and the same time for September. If you don't have any objection, could be the 7th of September, Monday. Will that work generally?
Yes.
I will not be there, but it's okay. You can do without me.
So we keep the same, the second week of the month as much as we can. Okay. Now we stop the recording and thank you very much before giving you some pre-holiday talk. I'll stop the recording now.